Welcome to another episode of the ICDD Interview Series. My name is Florian Dur, I'm the Executive Manager of the ICDD. And today it's my honor and pleasure to be with Javier Becerril Garcia. He holds a PhD in Agricultural Economics from Kiel University in Germany. He is a research professor at the Economics School at the Universidad Autónoma de Yucatán in Mexico. He chairs the Climate Fund of the Yucatan Peninsula and coordinates UADY's graduate research and liaison. So thank you so much, Javier, for being with us. Please tell us a bit more about yourself, your research areas, any upcoming publications, and your interest in decent work.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the invitation, for the introduction, kind introduction, by the way. I would like to say that I'm a professor in the UADY University in a very nice place, and a place that we have a lot of challenges, working with the environment, with agrobiodiversity, and indigenous people, also teaching students. I am professor over there since 2008. I am full-time professor in the faculty. I teach a bachelor degree, master degrees, and PhD program as well.
Excellent, thank you. And do you have any upcoming publications related to decent work? Or what are your main research areas?
Yeah, my main research areas is about the agrodiversity conservation and also decent work. Obviously, we are working now in almost 2 major research programs funded by Kellogg Foundation and also from one foundation from the United States related to agrobiodiversity conservation in rural areas in Yucatan. In hands on the indigenous people, one of them we try to understand the social capital, how the people interact and how the people solve the problems during pandemic crisis, because it was hard, very hard for most of the people in rural areas. We have also this big problem from strong hurricanes, and they impact in the peninsula because the peninsula is quite flat. And also we have another problems, the water pollution. That's my topic. I am working with my students and other colleagues from the University of Yucatan and also from other universities like from United States, Michigan State University or Central Mexico or other parts from Germany, for instance. Even from Spain, we're working with them. These are my major topics in rural areas, attending the conservation of agrobiodiversity.
Excellent. Thank you so much for letting us a bit more know about your main research areas.
Yeah.
And today we really want to discuss a recent ICDD working paper on the theme Footwear Industry and Plastic Recycling, a case of circular economy and green jobs in Yucatan, Mexico. So can you tell us a bit more about your research team with whom you conducted this research?
Yeah, first of all, is my PhD student. Now he is my colleague, he's a doctor, Professor Ivan Hernandez. He worked with me under my supervision. Now he is my colleague. And also Professor Norma Perez. She is professor from Faculty of Medicine. Also Javier Pereira. He is a professor from Faculty of Medicine at UADY. And the last person is Alan Sosa. I am very, very happy because he wrote this working paper as well, because he is the owner of this company, the recycling plastic to produce some parts of the shoes in Tikul municipality. We asked to him if he has interest to participate in this publication, and he said, yes, obviously, I have interest to see how is my work done and how to publish to diffuse the information that I have in my company. I think that it's very nice because most of the time the people go to the field, go to the rural areas and collect the information, and that's it. In this time, we invite to the local people to publish with us. It was possible, and me, obviously.
Excellent, and I think that's something that certainly makes this working paper special, that the owner of this plastic recycling company indeed was involved in the research about precisely this. Right. So how can we imagine the context where this plastic recycling firm is operating, and what are some of the social and economic dynamics in the Tikul municipality in Yucatan where you conducted the research?
Yeah, we stay working in Ticul. Ticul is one municipality in the south part of Yucatan. Yucatan is like a V. Ticul is in the south. We visit Ticul, this municipality, several times, and we saw a lot of pollution. Pollution for these companies manufacturing shoes, for instance, also from agriculture sector, also for the handicrafts production. And we saw a lot of pollution. But specifically in this enterprise, they collect plastic for many parts of Yucatan. For instance, the capital city is Mérida, and the Mérida people throw away many plastic. And this guy collect the plastic and then recycle to produce some parts or special parts of the shoes. And then he sell to the local workers in Ticul this part of the shoes. Another important part of these components came from China, for instance. But most of almost 30% of the components of the shoes that are produced locally came from this enterprise. For that reason, we have interest to interview this company because it's quite important. Many people throw away plastic in Mérida or in other places, and this person or this company collect the plastic and recycle. This is a key issue, right? If somebody feels that it's waste for me, probably it's an input for other company. It was my interest to research.
Excellent, thank you. And I saw that shoemaking is quite important in the local economy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Because I think that more than the 50% or probably 50% of GDP from the municipality came from this kind of industry to manufacturing the shoes. And this is an important sector. Imagine it is an important sector in the local economy. These inputs make sense to recycle plastic, and we are an input for the industrial sector, for the shoes sector. I think it's important.
Thank you. And what were some of the main findings in your research?
One of them is that nobody can imagine in Yucatan areas that the plastic has a second use in this kind of the shoes. If you look at the shoes, you can imagine that it is coming. It's from the plastic of the TV framework, the old TV frameworks, they also recycling. And that means we have to avoid to produce a new raw material from the environment. We have to recycle. I asked to the owner of the company how many times you can recycle your shoes, for instance. He told me any times. It could be any times, recycling. But I think that we have to put in specific areas the lowest or don't use any more shoes, and then come back to the company to destroy or the composite, and once again to recycle. This is the most important thing. And the people now, they have to understand that many things from our environment, they have to put and recycle once again, talking about, for instance, plastic.
And what are some of the actors involved in this plastic recycling, or how does this firm work?
Yeah, the actors is, we have almost 2 places in Ticul municipality, and they involve many people working on it, because there's people working in Mérida collecting plastics. And then they pass on other hands. The people translate to the south of the state, and they collect. And after that, they have to clean the plastic to remove any other kind of, there is no plastic or PVC, something like that. They have to clean. And after that, enter to the company. That means that is almost a huge number of members working on it, collecting something. Mm-hmm.
And something you highlighted is toxicity, and that there are often toxic materials in shoe production, but also in the recycling work. So where do you have better occupational health and safety, or what are some of the challenges in this area?
Yes, to produce this kind of recycled plastic is inside one company. And the formal or informal or family workers, or family workers, they produce the shoes inside on the household. That means that all the family members are working to produce shoes, and they use glue, they use thinner, they use color, and to produce this kind of shoes. For that reason, I think that is a little bit dangerous for the family members. They use the chemistry inside the household, in the place where the children are playing, and also the children are supporting or helping the local production. This is a little bit a concern for us right now, because most of these households of workers produce the shoes inside of the household, the place where the children's, all people, and all the family stay together. The big question is why don't produce in a workshop, for instance, and they don't produce the production outside. Well, this is the simple reason, is the property rights. They want to hit the designs from the shoes. If somebody make a copy, probably they lost the utility for the production. For that reason, they prefer to produce inside the households, but the cost is very higher because most of the family members stay in touch with the chemistry and toxicity. Yeah.
So the argument is that how about in this recycling firm? Is formal employment then safer employment?
Yes, it's safer employment. And this index is constructed about the literature. They have different components. If the people are working in safe conditions, if the work means that they don't use chemistry or emission gas greenhouse index, for instance, and they use a property schedule or timetable during the week, and they respect the evenings, they respect the mornings, also the weekends. This index is building in this direction and this composition about the green index.
Great, and you already mentioned the Green Employment Index and how combining workers' rights but also environmental concerns can work. Can you tell us a little bit more about this Green Employment Index?
Yeah, this employment index is quite useful in this kind of jobs in rural areas because they produce many things. For instance, in the solar is the behind on the household, and they produce fruit, vegetables, and also citrus trees in the backyard, on the behind the household. And most of the people, they don't use chemistry, they don't use pesticides and nothing. It's only for local knowledge. They control the pest, for instance, and they produce the local foods. For that reason, this green job index is quite useful for us. Also from the milpa sector, they produce, and we use this green job index. And in the company, the recycling plastic is quite useful because they produce safety and they reduce the plastic emission or the pollution emission to the water or something like that. They collect the plastic and they recycle the plastic. For that reason, this green job index is important for us. It was higher than our results. It was almost upper than 70%. That means quite safe. This is one of our major findings in that working paper.
Thank you, Javier. And indeed, for those interested to learn more about this index, please refer to the working paper where you can find the result, including the score of over 70%. Yeah. Another aspect are environmental impacts. So you already mentioned a little bit that plastic pollution is a big problem, and that so what is the environmental impact of this plastic recycling firm?
Yeah, one of the characteristics of the peninsula of Yucatan is the karstic soil, because this karstic soil permit the infiltration from all the products you have in the superficial area to go down to the groundwater. This is our problem with this kind of soil in the peninsula. For that reason, wherever you put over, they fall down to the rainwater or the groundwater. And then the local people take the groundwater to useful, to beverage, to clean, to everything, everywhere you can use. That means if you make pollution in that direction, in a few moments the people take the water from the same source. For that reason, this kind of soil, castic, is quite dangerous, so we have to take care. For that reason, to recycle plastic or to reduce chemistry is some activities that we have to reduce in anywhere in the peninsula.
Excellent, and I think not just in the peninsula but globally, right? We have to learn to think in cycles, and then everything comes back at the stage and doesn't disappear somewhere.
Exactly.
So yes, and that's something the working paper also emphasizes, that while of course in the production of shoes there is this impact of toxic substances generated, at the same time this plastic company helps to reduce CO2 emissions and reducing soil pollution. So I think these are two key findings on the environmental impact. Now we already discussed a little bit, one of the keywords in your research is circular economies.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, for our viewers who haven't heard the term, what are circular economies?
Yeah, we have now this kind of interest to the circular economy in Mexico. It has almost 50 years ago, this area started in the economics faculty, for instance. We had to think in three of our arts. The first one is to reduce the consumption. All the society has to reduce the consumption. For instance, to use the vehicle, to use the flight, to use whatever. You can think in green emission or gas problems of pollution. Another one is to repair. You have to repair. Now in my country, most of the people, the chair, for instance, the chair is broken. Most of the people want to buy a new one. You say, why not to repair the last one, or the clothes, or the car, or the bicycle, or the TV? Most of the time, you got to buy a new one. Okay, I am economist. I know the importance to buy anywhere. And the third one is the recycle. We have to recycle. Or the fourth one is to reject. If you go to the store, to the coffee, if somebody give you a one-use plastic, you have to say, no thank you, I reject. When you go to the store and to buy a bag of plastic, you have to say, no thank you. I had to reduce. That means that the economic model, linear economic model from the usually economics models in the world, in Mexico for instance, is we extract from the raw materials, we use and we deposit. We extract, use and deposit. The circular economy, they have to recycle everywhere. For instance, the washing machine, the TV, the bicycle, the printer. Most of the time we have to buy a new printer, for instance in Mexico, and instead of repair. If you see in the market a new model of the printer, you have to provide interest to buy a new one. By the way, I know people that they bought clothes and they never use, and they stay in the new one condition and they never use. For that reason, I think that it's important to change the model from the linear model to the circular economy. Now, many companies in Mexico, by the way, they are recycling. There is a foundation, it's called Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and they have all the characteristics of the methodology to measure the circularity in one company, probably one university. What is the meaning of the circularity? Okay, from all your inputs, how much is circular? From the water, energy, paper, wherever. Something that you have to throw away. How much is circularity? Is the measure. To measure the circularity in one company. For that reason, we have interest in this topic in circular economy.
Excellent, and thank you for explaining a little bit what circular economies are. Exactly, that they're not linear to disposal, but there is repair or reuse, which is very important. And also thank you for emphasizing that indeed the three important R's, right? Reducing, reusing or recycling in that order of importance.
Reject.
And rejecting.
Exactly.
So coming back to the precise example of this plastic recycling firms, so what are some of the opportunities or also some of the challenges to scale up these solutions?
Yeah, I am working in rural areas in Yucatán, and I am looking for in any places in the rural areas how to implement the circular economy. And what my surprising, in the home garden, the people, they don't produce waste. They use everything. They use everything. For instance, you plant onions, carrots, or whatever you want in your backyard. You don't produce pollutions, because most of the time it's the local knowledge, and they produce with the local inputs. If the pets are coming, don't worry. They produce for everywhere. It's the vision or the values of the Mayan people. Mayan people say we have to produce for everybody. If the animals from a neighbor came and eat, no problem. It's for them. If the wild animals, for instance bears, came and eat, no problem. It's for everybody. That means the conception from the local Maya people, they produce for everybody. And instead of they produce for utility or this kind of vision of capitalism to produce, increase the production. No, this is the vision of the local people. It's something that I understand. Now, for big cities like Mexico City or Mérida City, the capital city of Yucatán, we have the challenges. The challenge to reduce the consumption of plastic or pollution or the use of the vehicle or the use of fossil fuels, we have to reduce this one. And also the companies or local companies, they have to understand what is the end of the linear model economy. They have to implement in the companies how to recycle many inputs, for instance, water, electricity, paper, whatever. The companies has to question by yourself, however, the circularity in my company. This is a big challenge.
And you already mentioned the Maya people. Can you tell us a little bit more about indigenous peoples in Yucatan and what we can learn from their values in this context?
Yeah, in my university we have a program. This kind of program say that we have to interchange knowledge from the academic point of view to the local people. We have to sit down in this level, in the multicultural level, and interchange knowledge. Okay, this kind of people, Maya people, they have the cosmovision of everything. They believe about the moon, they believe about the earth, they believe about the trees, the animals. It's different, the cosmovision. That means the relationship with the human, with the nature, is a relationship. When he went to harvest, they asked to the plants or the animals, please feed me today, that tomorrow I feed you to you. When I go down to the earth, when I die, I feed you to you. It's a relationship. They talk with the nature. This is the cosmovision. They respect everywhere, any place. In the Western or in the cities, we forget it about this one. We think that all these things are things, not persons. For Maya people, everything has heart, everything has feelings. This is kind of different, the cosmovision of Maya people. In the cities, we change everything. This is objects for us is stay for serving us, right? You can to collect whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You never question where the food is coming from. This is different topics. For that reason, I think that the Mayan people, their beliefs of the cosmovision or local cosmovision is quite important to come back. Because in the Corona times, when we stay locked down, the people go back to the milpa sector to produce the local foods, and also from the solar and for the forest. They went and they come back. For instance, in Cancun, in Riviera Maya, where most of the hotels are, the local people that work over there, they come back to the rural areas. and they had to attend the milpa system and the solar system. And they, once again, asked to the art for produce foods. This is, I think, that is most important, to share information or knowledge with the local people. I think that we had to learn too much from them.
Absolutely, that sounds really fascinating indeed. And intercultural education, learning about reciprocity, learning about thinking in cycles is extremely important. So there are many broad debates going on at the moment about climate change, about a just and green transition, about planetary boundaries, about the sustainable development goals. What do you think this specific example can teach for the bigger debates?
Now, I am wondering always, what is the planet that we heritage for the young people? What is the planet that we are heritage to the people that they wasn't born yet? We are a heritage a planet with pollution accumulation, and also we are heritage a planet with biodiversity scarcity. This is our worry. This is the topics that we have to work with the young people to understand very well. We have to change our manners, how to produce the food. We're increasing the population. It is expected that in 2050 we will be 9,000 billion people in the planet. It's too much. We have to produce more food and keeping the environment. This is a real challenger for everywhere in this planet. For that reason, that I can see that this kind of model, circular economy, green job index, and local knowledge, we have to learn too much from them and to try to reduce our consumption. We have to stop a little bit the only one use.
Absolutely. And finally, I would like to know, is there a person or a movement or recent events that inspires you and gives you hope that a better future is possible?
Yes, for the young people. For instance, I have a daughter, 3 years old. I am wondering always what kind of planet I heritage to her. The safety, the natural resources, the clean water, to know that cenote is a cove under the water, under the air, under the you can see the nature, you can hear the birds, you can hear the plants and the trees. This is my most motivation to interact with the young people, because when they left the university, probably they are now policymakers and they forget everything. But for that reason, I like to work with the young people, in teaching in the room, or from very young people to feel a little bit the reasons it's important to keep the natural resources for the comfortability of the life.
Excellent. So congratulations again, Javier, to you and your team for this fascinating research paper. Thank you for taking time for this interview today, and thank you for the important work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for it.